women,
I
why
know
do
who this is.
they
You
not
know.
believe that it's okay to date a man who is potential or has potential?
So you can say that you're gonna make those six figures, but if the actions don't match the words, then you are never going to make those six figures.
You ain't got your six figures. It's like, hey, but together we got four knees and we can pray and we can make this thing work.
It's not that I just saw the potential. I knew that I had the potential to call him to that place.
Whoa!
It was beyond lust. It was beyond it. You have to be able to identify that. If you can't, you actually need to take a step back and say, all right, I need to get me straight before I even consider, what I see or what I could potentially see. So I took a season of nothingness. I was completely celibate. I was spending time with God. I had my life straight, and I knew that I could hear my Father clearly. So when He said that is what I need for you to not pursue, but to encourage and to allow me to work through you to better this individual, it was clear to me. It wasn't a happenstance or, I do like him and he's cute, and it was beyond the natural things. It was all spiritual. But we really have to just make that commitment to ourselves before we even try to find our other half or better half. Be whole. It's not that he came in perfect. He was far from perfect.
All right, y'all. Dating potential. Dating potential. We're going to go to Sweeney first. Sweeney, you always got them interesting takes on your face. What's going on, man?
This is some old bullshit, man. I will say this. Most people who say that they dated potential wasn't trying to date potential to begin with. They were dating based off of how they felt in that moment. They was getting the feels. And then when shit breaks down, that's when they say, oh, well, he had potential. But with that being said, my question is what is potential? Are you dating somebody on the potential that they can become a great father? Or that they can, take care of a household? Or are you dating potential based on the fact that they may make $1 million one day? Like, what exactly do people mean when they say that person had potential or you are dating potential?
Can I jump?
Because normally when you hear people say, when we hear people in these spaces talk about potential, it's normally talking about somebody having the potential to be a six-figure earner or something like that. When if you just look at the numbers, the likelihood of that motherfucker making six figures is slim to none. But would you ever go after somebody and date them based on that? Or are you dating potential, i.e. you see the work where you see a person going to school, you see a person that graduated undergrad, and then they went to grad school and they're going to get their doctorate or their master's in a particular subject. And that would be potentially dating potential. But I'm just struggling on what we mean when we talk about dating potential. Because there's a different level. There's levels to potential. Are you talking about potential career-wise, or are you talking about potential family-wise?
I see it, when you're going to go look for a home, they always say you want a home with like good bones, right? You want to, but then there are some people who do the rehabs and they gut out houses and they reform them and rebuild them. And so I think there are women like the woman in that clip that says, hey, look, let me get myself together. She's not trying to rehab a man, but she does want a man with good bones. So with a house, when you're buying a house, you got to put everything into the house. So, but you don't want to buy a house that got a hole in the roof. You don't want to buy a house that has a bad water pump because you're going to have to buy one in another. So you want something that has a good foundation, but you don't want to be rehabbing someone. I remember I had Lynn Toller on my channel, and she said about women wanting men with six figures. And she says, well, look at what he's doing. Is he earning? Is he increasing? Is he progressing? And if he's doing those things, then he has the potential, and he's working in his potential to be a good man and make that money that, you either want him to make or the money that he's capable of making. But we often look at men and be like, oh, well, he's not making a six figure, so I'm not even going to talk to him. I'm not even going to give him the time of day, which is unrealistic in today's society.
Also, because I would say this also, if you look at a man, you find out how much you find out what he does for a living, right? Or the job field he goes into. And if you look at that job field and you look at the average income for that job, and you see that it's anywhere between 40 and 75 or 80,000, would you ever have should you have the expectation that that person will make north of 6 figures, or should you be like, okay, I can see where you could potentially be at based off of these parameters, or do you go above and beyond that?
So I'm gonna go ahead and say this. The actual definition of potential is having or showing the capacity to become or develop into something in the future, right? And so when we're talking relationships, this is where, and as much as I hate these terms, I'm gonna go ahead and use them. This is where the whole idea of the Pookies and Ray Rays come up. This is when women say they're not dating potential. When they've actually been with the man who has been their burden. When they've actually been with the man who has rode their coattails. She was the primary breadwinner. She was the primary decision maker. She was the primary shelterer, and she was the person who had to pick up the slack. Or a lot of times you will see women in relationships with men and they have children, but the only time he's active with his children is when it's a woman they're helping to guide him for the activity. You know, and this is when women are saying that they're not dating potential anymore. And then they get this obsolete, extreme mindset of, well, if I date another man, he already got to come healed and come whole, because you'd already in your head dated the guy who'd potentially been a better man. But the basis of potential is there's already action taking place, as Sweeney was alluding to. I don't want to date a man who has no job, because everybody got the potential to be an employee. But I will date a man who is already actively working and has the potential to elevate himself within his career parameters. I think that's the difference. Like, we take on these things and we idealize these words, but essentially we're not necessarily applying them to the correct situations, because a man just laying up in your house and then you sitting there going to work and he driving your car, and the only time his kids are happy and healthy is when you're sitting there making him and his baby mama get along. It's not actually dating a man with potential. You just traveling baggage.
So wouldn't that so that would actually allude to what Precious was saying, where she says that when and kind of what I said, a lot of people say that they were dating somebody based on potential, when in reality you was dating somebody with a shaky foundation. Absolutely. You was dating somebody with a cracked foundation. That's not potential. You dated that
was a rehab.
You dated not even a rehab. You below rehab. You dated a something that needs to be dilapidated home. You dated something that needs to be demolished, and then now you're gonna come back out and say, "Oh well, I dated." No, you never dated potential to begin with. So you can't say that. Oh, I'm never gonna date potential again, when that wasn't potential. You just that was nothing to that.
It was a project, and it was probably a project because you felt the need to have your needs stroked in some manner, whether it's an emotional attachment because he was available, right? Or whether it was a sexual attachment because he was available. But if men were to walk around and say, I ain't dating no woman with potential, then we would essentially be saying, I ain't trying to get married, because you have to have potential of showing you are a wife before you actually become a wife. The same way women have to be able to go and vet men and say, he has to show potential of being a husband before I ever accept this proposal. So I agree, Sweeney. People are not dating potential. They're dating projects.
How many subscriptions are you paying for? Rocket Money finds sneaky or forgotten subscriptions and makes canceling them as easy as clicking a button.